I want to bring back in now Joseph Pinion. He's a GOP strategist. Also, we have Tom Borelli, Newsmax insider. We're going to bring him in just a minute here. Joe, the president is ready to reopen the country. We've heard that time and time again. We hear governors want to do it as well. But do we see this as a red state versus blue state issues with governors making the decision? It seems as if there's a power struggle through this whole thing.
Look, I think, again, cooler heads have to prevail. People have to get in the room and just start figuring out, really on a state-by-state basis, what needs to happen for the country. I think President Trump, obviously, when there was much rumored about the Stafford Act early on in this pandemic process, I think President Trump deferred to those governors and to those states to make prescient decisions about when to shut down everything from beaches to restaurants. And I think as we start talking about reopening states and reopening commerce, those same type of discussions have to be talked about. And so I think, again, we have to, on some basic level, get out of our ideological talking points when it comes to states' rights versus federal rights, and really just start talking about what's actually going to help the most people the fastest.
Yeah, a lot of people would agree with that. Tom Borelli, Newsmax insider, joining us live now. Good to see you, Tom. I want to read this to you real quick. Bill Gertz reporting on Newsmax.com that it looks like the virus did come from a lab in Wuhan. Greg Kelly also doing a very interesting series here on Newsmax TV at 7 o'clock at night if you want to check that out as well. We're suspending funding from the World Health Organization. Tom, do you feel like the U.S. should retaliate against China in some way?
Well, I think the first step is what President Trump did, is holding up the funding to the WHO. That's number one, because their fundamental role was to protect public health, and they actually aided and abetted a pandemic that's really hitting our country not only economically but also with fatalities, deaths. So that's absolutely outrageous. But look, President Trump has identified China as a risk since he walked in that office, actually before he was warning about China. So now we're finding more and more information about China. President Trump will be very selective and slow with his approach, but I guarantee you it will be the right approach. What I find most outrageous is that our National Institutes of Health gave that lab in China, in Wuhan, $3.7 million grant to experiment on, bats. I mean, this is outrageous. Why are we funding China in the first place? Why are we funding their weapons lab? Who at NIH approved it? Dr. Fauci, where are you?
Interesting point there. Trump's approval is up by 5 points, guys. Reuters is reporting that as well, showing that on the screen. Joe Pinion, why is that?
Look, I think you have a lot of Americans who are seeing things like the Dow starting to respond a little bit. I mean, we were fearful that we were going to be in the death spiral heading into the low teens. So I think that stabilization kind of quelled the fears of senior citizens who had watched their 401ks and all of their retirement savings grow underneath the Trump administration. I think it also has some hope for individuals who have been affected with joblessness in the wake of President Trump, and 7 million new jobs haven't been created. So I think what you see in the approval ratings is the hope restored of Americans. Again, we have to make sure that we are engaging in a meaningful way to make sure that those recoveries on Main Street are more imminent and also lasting.
Tom, real quick, I want to ask you about CNN. They're not carrying the full briefings. A lot of people are aware of this. If you just get on Twitter, you'll see this. White House correspondent Jim Acosta openly resisting the president at those briefings all the time. Now the president's son, Don Jr., says the network should be called CNN. What do you make of this, Tom?
Well, President Trump has said that the media can be the enemy of the people, and I think CNN is a prime example of that. That's why I think smart viewers are turning into Newsmax TV to get the truth on what's going on with China. But Acosta was actually defending the WHO yesterday, which is absolutely outrageous, again, because their job is to protect public health. But that's okay with CNN. They're protecting the WHO. They're saying President Trump is playing a blame game. Yeah, he is, on China and on the WHO for really infecting the world.
Thank you guys both for coming on. We're out of time. That is Tom Borelli and Joe Pinion. Stay safe, guys. We appreciate you joining us here on the show.